Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for another Villages Talk. We have Zach Strong from CodeRed Partners representing Career Village, going to talk to us about hacking the hiring process. So, yes, thank you very much. Let's give him a quick round of applause.
Awesome. Thank you. Hacking the hiring process. It's a pretty aspirational title, but hopefully you guys can get some value out of what I've got to say. I'm going to walk you through some tips, tricks, and just organizational things that I've seen as a career security recruiter, walking through, applying to jobs, kind of that ideation process as well, determining what you're looking for, all the way up to the first interview. So yeah, let's dive into it. Obviously, the market, is tougher now than it was last year, and when the market is a little bit more competitive, you definitely have to take a strategic approach to your job search. You can't necessarily just be spam applying. You must be very targeted and directed with your applications and efforts when you're looking for a role. I like to think of it almost like a pie or a cake, where if one ingredient or one aspect of the process of this job search, or making a cake in this example, isn't necessarily up to par, then that can affect the end result pretty deeply. So you really need to look at all aspects, everything that goes into your networking, your application process, your resume, your LinkedIn, and really go through each with kind of a fine-tuned comb and make sure that it's representing you to the best of your abilities. So here is kind of my high-level view of getting to getting to an interview. What questions do I need to ask myself? What do I need to answer? First, what do you enjoy doing? What do you like about your role? What do you want to do more of? How do you present yourself? That can be your resume, your LinkedIn, your GitHub, anything that's out there online for people to find. People are going to look at it. I know a lot of recruiters here that have dug through BSides archives or Black Hat archives. They've dug through GitHubs and found some pretty interesting ways to source. So I'm telling you right now, if it's out there, we're probably going to find it. So you have to have some control over your footprint online. And then lastly, who do you know that can help? A lot of security right now is a very tight-knit circle. The broader industry is small, but it's growing rapidly. Getting that first step into security, or even as you're making a move in leadership, oftentimes you're going to know somebody that is be that key kind of factor in getting a role. Referrals are huge in the industry, so really tapping into your network is huge as well. So diving into that a little bit deeper, first, really understanding where are you at in your career, what is the next step forward, and what's my end goal? Some questions to ask yourself, similar to reverse engineering: work backwards, know what your end goal is. If you want to be a CISO one day, how do you get there? Even if you're just getting into security, have an end goal in mind and be directional on what you're looking for and what you want. Oftentimes, I think we can get very broad, especially as you're really trying to break into the industry, where you may not necessarily know explicitly what you want to do. You just know you want to work in security. Talk to people in the industry, talk to peers, talk to leaders, get an idea of what you actually enjoy. Do you want to be hands-on coding? Great. Learn more about that. Represent that on your resume. Contribute actively on GitHub. If you want to work more on the compliance or the business side of security as well, network and learn from leaders who have done it as well, or peers, and really understand what impact do I want to have, what areas do I need to grow in, what do I want to learn, and how do I progress towards my end goal. Always think about that pathway, that roadmap throughout the process of applying and interviewing. Number two, control your footprint. I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, but if it's online, I guarantee we're gonna see it. Hiring managers are gonna see it. So is it helping you or hindering you? That's the biggest question. It really breaks down to two things. Like I touched on, your online presence. but also your resume as well. That's typically kind of the first touch point that people will see if you're applying through a standard application process. That resume is really kind of the gateway into who you are in your career. This can include cover letters as well. I'd say cover letters are kind of a thing of the past nowadays. So yeah, your resume and your online presence are huge in kind of this part of the process. Here, you really want to get your LinkedIn updated. Look around at the industry, look at peers who have been successful, understand what makes their LinkedIn presence or their engagement online work. A lot of times that's commenting on posts, engaging with communities, joining Discord groups or Slack channels, attending virtual events. Get your name associated with the area of security you want to focus in, whether that's detection engineering, AppSec, InfoSec, you name it. Make sure that if I go on your LinkedIn, I can see posts, I can see activity, all focused and geared towards a domain that you want to progress towards. Join the conversation, like I said, and then be proactive in networking as well. Peers, mentors are great. Just reaching out to leaders as well. When you reach out to leaders, be cognizant of their time. Go in with empathy and expect to learn and follow up consistently. And honestly, reach out to talent professionals, whether it's people like us at Code Red or talent professionals at the company that you're applying to. Our job is quite literally to help you get a role, and sometimes it can you're trying to almost kind of fit a square peg into a round hole if you're not necessarily directed in what you're looking for. And so when you work with a talent professional, we have access from our end as agency recruiters to multiple different roles, different hiring managers. We can make introductions. Even internally, if you're working through an internal talent partner, they have access to different teams, different hiring managers there. So typically they can help in some way. So definitely don't forget to reach out to your talent. Your resume is, like I mentioned, quite literally the first thing that people typically see through the application process. It's not going to be the thing that gets you a job, but it very well could reject you one. So you really want to make sure that you're being strategic in what you put on your resume, and that it's only giving you strengths, adding to your skill set, benefiting you, and not hindering in any way. Some tips that I've seen throughout my time as a recruiter: keep it short. Typically, depending on the recruiter, an average resume review can last anywhere between a couple seconds to minutes. I probably have yet to see anybody actually review a resume for 10 minutes. That's pretty long. But yeah, at max, 2 pages or so. Keep it short and sweet, and very directional on what you want to focus on. Titles and summary. Underneath your name, my suggestion is to put the title that you're aspiring to achieve, whether that's a security engineer, security analyst breaking into the industry, or a director of InfoSec who's looking to get that first CISO gig as well. Put that under there. That's what people see when I look on a resume, or a recruiter will look. We subconsciously associate that with your name and who you are. So having that title underneath, even if it's not necessarily what you're doing now, but it's kind of that next progression in your career, highlight that and let it be known. Also, experience matters, not only from what you've done, what you haven't done, but also how you word it, the order in which you word it on your resume. These are all things that can make an impact, whether you realize it or not. To dive a little deeper on the experience part in general, this is kind of a lot to look at, but I think there's really 3 main buckets when looking at bullet points on a resume. Can highlight leadership skills, whether that's mentorship, scope of projects that you've worked on, different business impacts. That's one bucket that can kind of highlight your leadership abilities. Your technical abilities, your coding, languages that you are comfortable working with, different projects or products that you've developed. Those are all great examples to bring in on technical impacts of the work you've done. And behavioral as well is important to include. just to show that you're a problem solver, you have communication skills and soft skills. Work on it. If there's any area that you may feel that is lacking, or that you're strong in one and not as much in another. Generally, if you have these three broad skill sets, it's going to be pretty appealing from a resume reviewer or a hiring manager's perspective. Additionally, start your bullet points off with a verb when we're talking about how to craft your experience explicitly. Developed, created, built, led, architected, designed. That's what recruiters want to see. That's what hiring managers want to see. They want to see the actionable things that you incorporated or worked on at the company. Keep your bullet points on each role, I would say between 3 to 5. You don't want to have a long list, because by the time you get midway through the bullets, you've already lost the reader's attention, and they're kind of moving on to your next step in your career. So keep it short and sweet. Order matters as well in the way that the experience is worded. The first thing you see is the first thing that you want to associate with your role, and also what your desired role is moving forward. So if you're a security engineer and you're applying for an application security role, and it's very heavily working throughout the SDLC, and that's highlighted in the job description, look at what the bullets they have there, list and the requirements are, and order that similarly in your experience. Use numbers to quantify impact. Show a tangible result, whether that's improving processes, speeding up time, cost saving, budgeting. If you have numbers to highlight those quantifiable results, it gives a lot more tangibility and direction to a recruiter or hiring manager who's reading your resume. And the whole goal of the resume really is to get an interview. It's not necessarily to put your whole life story out there. It's to highlight your strengths, what you've done, whether it's patents, certifications, works that you have, things that you've developed, products you've worked on. You want everything on your resume to be a plus, a positive thing that's going to help you get a job. Oftentimes, I've seen a lot of resumes that they can be 3, 4, 5 pages. They're really long, and you lose the attention of the reader. So keep it short, keep it sweet, and keep it targeted to what you want. Finally, networking is huge when applying for a role, when trying to find a new job. Be directed and targeted in what you're looking for. Like I'd mentioned earlier, speak to talent professionals. That's who I would reach out to first personally. They oftentimes can help you, work through the application process, know who to talk to within the company, and usually have a direct line to the hiring managers. Second, reach out to peers, ask for referrals. That's huge in the industry. A lot of companies have referral programs in place to help them fill roles. Everybody wants to have the best team around, and the fact that people, your network is very valuable. Even just reaching out to somebody that you may have never actually worked with or know personally, but having a conversation, a quick coffee chat, maybe a quick phone call, and then asking for a referral at the end of it can definitely make a big impact. Finally, reach out to leaders. Like I mentioned, when reaching out to leaders, you want to make sure that you're reaching out with empathy, your understanding of their schedule. If you get the time to chat with them, go in, be attentive, follow up, and just go in expecting to learn. Obviously, this is more applicable to maybe people earlier on in their career, in the mid stages. It can be more peers once you progress to a certain point. Lastly, touching on networking tips that I've seen. First of all, you get 100 LinkedIn connects per week. I would suggest using all of those. I typically tend to max out my connections, but I also spend almost all my day on LinkedIn, so there's that. But use it, interact, build your network, grow your connections, make personal connections with people, ask for coffee chats, interact on LinkedIn consistently, comment on posts that you've seen by leaders, like things that have popped up from company pages, interact and respond to different questions or posts that you've seen. And I would suggest posting at least 2 times a week, ideally in the domain or subject area that you're looking to focus in, whether that's any pillar within security. associate your name with your brand, associate your name with the area of security that you're looking to grow and expand in, and be a thought leader. Building a brand kind of works its way into that. A lot of what is going to be valuable for you are not necessarily going to be, your resume, and things that your resume can only take you so far. Is what I'm trying to say. Your network is going to be that key that takes it to the next level when you ask for referrals, and you have a brand that you've built over time. That's going to be the most valuable thing, really, I think, throughout this whole presentation. And then coffee chats as well. It's an easy way to have a informal conversation, learn more about whether it's a company that you're trying to apply for, or a specific role that somebody's doing. Maybe you're just curious and want to have a conversation with another security peer and ask questions as well. Network and build that relationship with the broader security industry. Now, hopefully that will get you to interview. We can talk interviewing tips and kind of where to go from there, but really, making sure that your resume is up to date, your LinkedIn is up to date. It's packed full of things that are helping you, not hindering you, and making sure that you're tapping into your network are really, I think, the three key things to really take your InfoSec job search to the next level. So I'll kind of open it up to questions now, but I appreciate you taking some time to listen to what I've got to say, and hopefully somebody took some value out of it.
Where do you stand on like an objective on a resume? Do you care? Do you read it? Does it impact you at all?
I, as a recruiter, I do read it. I like the summary at the top. Some people will have multiple different stages, and an objective, a summary, and kind of a lot at the top. My suggestions would be, keep it to a couple sentences, but be very targeted on, this is who I am, this is what I've done, and this is what I'm looking for. But yeah, I would definitely keep it on there.
Hey, thank you for the amazing talk. One question I had is, how do you deal with just, applying to like hundreds of jobs and not hearing back or like rejections? How do you, continue to push forward through it, or like just believe in yourself that, you're gonna get there at some point? So any tips for that, or like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it can be discouraging if you're applying to hundreds of jobs and you're not hearing back, not getting to any interviews. It's really easy to give up at that point, and it's very disheartening. I would say that network piece is probably going to be the biggest thing. Is just continue to have those conversations with leaders and with peers. Reach out to recruiters as well, and talent individuals. Me personally, I'm always open to have a chat to discuss how I can help, whether that's working through LinkedIn, working through your resume. But I would say really tapping into your network, kind of building that awareness into the industry is probably going to be where you're going to find success.
I spoke to a recruiter about when you're applying to send in a resume, and as well, they also said they preferred like a bio, just to like talk about a little bit more about who you were. Like, what is your stand on bios, and like just like a more like a longer waves, like saying like how like what kind of person you are.
It's almost like a cover letter, essentially. That's a great question. I have a different perspective than probably most on that front, just because I think the most important thing is the person's experience and who they are, and a lot of that you don't get from a cover letter. You get it from actually having a conversation, learning somebody. And so I typically, as a recruiter, I don't look at cover letters that much. If the experience fits, you can demonstrate to me that you have a skill set in this industry. My perspective is, and that's worth a conversation. But I totally get it where, it may be required. You have to, get something, in terms of a bio together. In that suggestion, I would say, look at peers. Again, kind of going back to network. Look at LinkedIn, kind of see how people word different things. Look at leaders, how they kind of talk about themselves on LinkedIn, but also ask your friends, hey, can you look this over for me? Ask somebody who's a few levels above you as well. What are your thoughts? Can you read this through? Give me some suggestions. And again, I know probably any of my team here would be welcome to help out on that front as well. So it's really just find a sounding board of people that you trust, who ideally work in the industry, and kind of tap into that. Awesome. Yeah.
All right, any more questions? Cool. All right, let's give a big round of applause. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.